Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Today we're talking about senior year. Join us as we share experiences with all the lasts, senior pictures, college applications, senioritis, letting go, and so much more. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about senior year of high school, and many of you may have a senior right now, so you might be in the thick of it. You may be a recovering mom who had a senior last year or recently, or you might be going into it soon, or you just might have a friend and you can better understand them that's going through it with a senior. So have you ever asked a friend how they're doing, or seen someone for the first time in a long time and asked what's been going on, and they say, I have a senior, and it's kind of like, okay, end of conversation, enough said, we know how your world is. And that experience brings to mind so many things, but no matter what, we all know it's very busy and emotions are high for both parents and kids. And so today we're joined by a guest, Jennifer Smith. She was on a few weeks ago when we talked about Truth or Dare, and now she's back with a more serious subject, having a senior, because she's in the thick of it. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This has been the absolute what has filled my mind for a while now. So when you asked for me to come on and have this discussion with the two of you, it's very fresh and very real.
Yes. And Mindy, she also has a senior, but it's not her first time like Jennifer. It's not her first time around the senior block, but it's always new because every kid is different. So Mindy's going to be talking about senior year for the third time.
How to recover and do it again, Jennifer. That's where we're at.
Well, either way, no matter where you are in this journey, because I had seniors 2 years ago, my last ones, but I feel like the best way to describe senior year is to say that it's bittersweet. Because there's like so many high highs and then there are some low lows. And just like much of motherhood, this is a new stage that you feel a lot of excitement over, and then you feel some sadness. And so we're here to talk about all of it, and we hope that it's encouraging to listeners. And, reach out. Make sure you reach out and let us know where you are on this, because you can be a comfort to Jennifer and Mindy. But we want to dive right in because I promise you there's so much to talk about for senior year. But why don't you guys just each briefly describe to the listeners, like where you're coming from for this discussion. So Jennifer, why don't you just refresh people real quickly who you are and where you're coming from?
Okay. So again, my name is Jennifer. I have 3 kids and my oldest is my senior right now. She's in public school and at a kind of high performing public school, I guess you would say. So the pressures are enormous. I feel like everybody is, not everybody, but a lot of the kids there are going to, Ivy Leagues and really amazing, incredible schools. I remember when I was a senior, it was just very general. There was a lot of people going to state schools, a lot of people going to community college. That was not unusual at all. A lot of people not going to college. And so I feel like her experience looks differently than mine. And I don't know where you want me to dive in yet, Marie, but it's all the things. It's a lot of overwhelm. It's amazing to me how incredibly busy this year is, and none of it has to do with school. Not one academic class is making things as crazy as they are. It's everything else.
Wow. I'm actually glad you brought that up, Jennifer, about the school system that you're in. That makes a huge difference in the amount of stress or anxiety a child can feel with their senior year. Depends on those kind of exterior things that are happening around them. Going at senior year for the third time, I'd had 2 wildly different experiences with my first 2 children. And even my second child was a COVID child with his senior year of high school. Nothing was the same. He graduated in our 4-year, prom was canceled. And so just a lot has changed. But at the same time, senior year, you say senior year, there's this heaviness. You anticipate it for years, knowing that things are going to vastly change in your home. And so I was still anticipating Jacob, my third child, becoming a senior. And so I know it's going to be okay. I know that it's not the end of the world. I know they're going to come back home. But at the same time, I know that the pressures, stresses, anxieties, you're trying to finish something well, you're trying to start something well, and there is a lot to do. Like you said, Jennifer, there is a lot. And so it's kind of like you gear up, you put your running shoes on, and you get ready because you know it's going to be a wild ride for a year. I've always described it as a roller coaster. Kind of like you said, Marie, there's high highs, there's low lows. You're grieving, you're anticipating, you're celebrating, you're grieving. I mean, you've got every emotion almost every single day.
Right. Well, we have a list of things to talk about today, and this list is in no particular order. But I feel like when I think about senior year, and I think about when people that aren't quite there yet think about senior year, they automatically start thinking about all the lasts. And the pressure that comes with anything that you label as the last is so great. Like you feel this pressure to make it wonderful. You feel this pressure to enjoy every second. You have these huge expectations, but there's just a lot of lasts. So tell me how you guys are doing, like with the last football game, or your child's last tennis match, or the last fall break you go on together, and now we're anticipating the last Christmas. How are you guys feeling about the lasts?
For me, I feel like, I don't have an athlete, so that has been really helpful as far as just the schedule and the load, but she sings. And so for us, the last football game was still a bit of a big deal because she sings the alma mater at each of the home games. And but what was funny is we had our last preseason, or whatever you call it, home game, and we all went, the moms, the choir moms, we videotaped, we got a little teary. It was, took all the pictures, and our team went undefeated, 10-0, and made it to the playoffs. And so now we enter, there's 3 more games now. And the of the 3, postseason games that we're having, or playoff games, she's missing the second 2. So the first one was this past Friday, and my husband and I were like, do we need to go? It's kind of like the last. And he's like, but the last week felt like a last. And I'm like, it did feel like a last. So do we need to go to this one? And we didn't even go. And so I'm like, we shed our tears. We took our photos. We're kind of done. That we did our last.
You
and it
can't
did not
carry
feel
that
as
emotional
grievous.
load for 3 more games.
I don't want to keep doing this. We said it was over. It's over. But as far as anticipating, I had this moment because last Christmas, I don't feel like is hitting me or going to hit me because I know she'll be back. And, last Thanksgiving, she'll be back. But oddly, Halloween, I was like, I think this is our last Halloween with her. In theory, because, for the next 4 years, she'll be gone. And we've had our sweet little tradition of, trick-or-treating friends and chili afterwards. And so she even was like, Mom, this might kind of be my last time. And I'm like, oh, my word, you're right. And not that we make a big to-do over Halloween, but that kind of hit me harder than I anticipate Thanksgiving and Christmas, because I know she'll be back for that. And I've also anticipated, spring break and fall break. Fall breaks might not align the same with college schedules, and spring breaks as well. Or even if they do align, she might want to do something with friends. And so I feel like there's this pressure of I want to do a fun trip, or I want to do fun things, or I want to make sure it's this fun thing as our last memory of the 5 of us. Like, she's dying, and my husband has to keep reminding me she's not dying. There will be more. And I'm like, but there's no guaranteed more.
Right.
We might have a surprise more. That's wonderful and beautiful, but there's no guaranteed more. And so that's what I feel like I'm constantly processing through, is the no guaranteed more. So.
Right. Man, it's really hard to talk yourself out of that when you're anticipating past. And I have to say, this is a beautiful thing about my kid, is that it's funny. We've taken a different approach this time around. I think it was actually harder for my youngest, Nathan, who mentioned actually 2 years ago that he was going to really miss Jacob, and that he never wanted to be an only child. He's number 4. And him and Jacob are very close, and they do everything together. They ride together to school. They work together at Chick-fil-A. They're very similar, like temperaments, personalities. They've always been like a set of twins. Well, it's going to be really hard for Nathan when Jacob leaves. So our conversation has been more kind of managing like Nathan. And so we've had a lot of discussions where we've kind of turned it around, and we've talked about all the fun things we can do with when Jacob's gone.
Oh.
This sounds terrible. But so the jokes in our house are like, Nathan said, oh, well, since I'm going to be the baby and the only one left, you can just buy me a car. Like, I don't have to earn money like the other kids had to do because I'll be the only one left. Or, oh, wow, mom and dad are just going to take me to Europe. Like, they could never afford to take you guys because there were too many kids. Or, like we're having these really funny conversations. Or like, Jacob, when you go to college, I'm going to need you to take all your stuff because I'm going to put my computer in your room. And so it's kind of become, a joke, but also, they're doing things together, but also I've backed off on kind of the pressure to like make everything perfect, if I could say that, because I have seen that the other two come and go, and we've already had to navigate. All right. Like, it was really hard when Abby wasn't there for our first family vacation. I mean, I felt like a death had happened. It really did feel that way. And you just almost have to go through it to get to the point where you're like, okay, well, this has happened for enough times. Like, who can come to family vacation this year?
Right.
Okay. Well, then we're going to roll with that. And so I've had to do that for long enough. I'm like, okay, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, but it's emotional, but maybe less.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I will say that, Marie, you've been a real encouragement to me in modeling what this next stage is going to look like. And I think for so long, I've anticipated that it'd be so grievous and so sad because I'm melancholy sometimes and I can go that direction right away. And my husband is the opposite. He's always so excited about the next thing, like what's coming. And I feel like you have modeled what will be exciting about the next stage and how, when schedules fall the way they fall, well, this year's fall break might look like 2 of your kids, and this fall it might be a trip with just 1 of your kids, and that those are really sweet things too. And that when all the stars align and all the kids are going to be together, it's even that sweeter and that much better. And so I think watching you do these, these post-grad years with all of your kids out and seeing how the chips fall, it's like, oh, that's kind of fun that you got that, mountain vacation, where you went in Montana with one daughter was really special, and that there are really special memories ahead that will be sweet blessings I couldn't have planned or anticipated.
Yeah, I will say that having gone through senior year 4 times, one of the senior years was with twins, but having done it, I will say the first one is the hardest because you're in your shoes, Jennifer. You just don't know what's coming. Yeah. Right. And I can anticipate grief and almost be like living grief when it hasn't even happened yet. It's like I'm already imagining myself there. And so, to find out that, oh, she did come home and actually our relationship improved after she graduated. Like some things got better, made all the subsequent senior years better in that aspect. I don't think I was just so floored by them. There's still, though, no matter how many times you've gone through it, is that bittersweet, like, oh my goodness, this is the last lacrosse game. This is the last time we'll take prom pictures. This is the last, like those, you can't escape those no matter how many times you've gone through them. You might go into senior year and you might be like, I am going to savor all the things. And then there's like family illness or your job doesn't cooperate or your kid doesn't cooperate. They don't want you at everything. Like, let's just take a minute just to talk about what do you do? Like, if you're listening right now, you're saying, well, I can't be there for every little thing. I'm going to try to enjoy what I can. Like, do you have anything to say to that kind of situation?
I feel like we went through the fire with Abby, and I'm just going to call it that because it was her first day of senior year. I had been anticipating. And then her first day, Bryce was downsized, let go. And so all of a sudden I was navigating a situation I hadn't anticipated. And I remember being very angry. I was sad. I was mad. And I didn't know what our life was going to look like. So not only were we looking at, where is she going to go to college, but also where is he going to get a job? And will we be close? And we don't know. And so I look back and like the Lord's mercies were definitely new every morning for us in that season. But all that to say is life continues to happen. You can't always grieve one thing and deal with it. something else will creep in. Part of that was merciful, like the Lord just put us through the fire. Now, because of having to deal with that, which if you guys know my story, you know, we ended up having to leave her in Tennessee and move to Pennsylvania to follow the next job. So there was just a lot happening, but I'd have to say like every day is just, you're tackling these emotions, these mountains of emotions. It built her up stronger. It's changed the dynamic of our family. And you just have to get through some things because again, life will just not always let you just deal with one thing at a time.
That's true, Mindy. Yes.
That's good. I think for me, we haven't had anything like that happen so far. And I'm grateful because that would be a lot. That would be a lot. But it's interesting how just this process and journey and what it's brought up in me. Nathan and I did this incredible Bible study last year. It was the whole year long, and it almost is like a friend of ours called it Counseling with Friends and Jesus. So this year, we just loved it so much, we stepped into leading a table of other women and men going through it. He's got a men's group, I've got a women's group. You know, stuff like that, when you go through something intensive like that, it peels back layers, but then when you go through it again, it peels back more layers. And so you're not going to get all the layers in the first time around. And so I had just kind of this aha moment, and we had a retreat over the weekend, specifically into just the college journey. And, you know, one thing that we have really faced with this college journey is watching our daughter, Kate, kind of be like paralyzed and gripped with kind of like just this overwhelming just fear. And she's not a fearful person, but it's just the overwhelm of, oh my word, a year from now, I am not going to be here. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how I'm going to do that on my own. I don't know what I want to do or major in. And it's so overwhelming. She just kind of checks out. And of course, there's deadlines, there's things, there's so many deadlines, and we don't have time to check out. Like, and I'm the one then steering that ship. And through the course of the Bible study and the retreat, without getting to all the details, I was able to unpack and kind of have this aha moment of looking back on my own time as a senior in the same position of being overwhelmed, feeling just overwhelmed by all the things, not knowing what I want to do or where I want to go, not feeling confident in myself of making a choice like that, a huge choice, and knowing I was capable of those things. And my story is that the deadlines, I had applied to 10 schools, the deadlines to let them know if I was coming were coming and going. And then I would just go, oh, I guess I won't go there because I didn't tell them I was coming. And I ended up staying at home and living at home and going to the university in my town. Looking back, I really wish I hadn't done that. And of course, God and his grace, that is part of my story. And I would not have met my husband and all the things that come out of that. I am so thankful for how he used that. But I still look back, I think, with a little tinge of regret of I wish I had gone away. And, you know, over the weekend, I had this kind of aha moment that, you know, I've crossed over the line of being the mom that's trying to encourage and say, well, we've got these deadlines, we've got to do this. And I'm tipping over the line into fear that, oh my word, my daughter's going to be just like me. She's going to stay home. She's not going to know what she's going to do. She's going to live paralyzed with the rest of her life with regret and fear. And, you know, and I'm projecting my story onto her. And I am operating out of that system of fear and regret. And so we actually went and got coffee yesterday, and I told her about the aha moment I had over the weekend and just said, I have to ask your, you know, forgiveness because I have been driving this ship a little too hard out of my fear and out of my just regret. And I want to apologize. And the thing is, you know, part of this Bible study, I don't want to get into all the details about it, but one of the things is like, you know, talking about your heart, and it's your thoughts, your emotions, your desires, and your choices. And there's a lot of really intentional questions surrounding that to live wholehearted in Jesus. And so one of the questions was, what is it you want? And I said, what I want for my daughter is to walk so closely with Jesus that she is listening to him, that she's not making these choices because of me and my nagging, that she's listening to the Lord and doing these things, walking in faith and walking in trust. But I'm in the way. And so like God had to say, okay, I think your fear is like driving this a little too hard, and I need you to step back just a little bit and let me do the great work in her, which is what you want for her anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if any of that makes sense, but that's been kind of just, and I'm sure that resonates with you guys, you know, because there are a million deadlines. There are a million to-do lists and things to think of, and they don't know. They're not doing the research on the honors colleges and the, you know, all the different things and knowing, should I do this one? Should I not do that one? You know, if these are the majors that I'm kind of considering, well, then let's research what schools have those majors and do well. You know, it's so much. And so there is a degree of us and our job as moms to help navigate that. But I definitely was able to see I've crossed over to the dark side, the side that's being driven by fear and regret and projecting that. So
that was really good insight, you know, that God showed you.
Yeah. And I'm glad God showed me that in November, not, you know, next April.
Yes.
And that I can step back and trust him and what he's doing in her and almost look forward to seeing how this will play out from her walk with the Lord, not me.
But, you know, praise the Lord for you to say that. I can only imagine the of relaxing fresh air she took when you said that to her, because you stepped into her world. And also we dealing with our own emotions, our own baggage as we walk our kids into the next phase of life. And as parents, we are constantly navigating our past with how we're trying to raise our kids.
Right.
Lord, give me wisdom and help me shepherd my kid, not out of fear, but out of wisdom, out of your truth, out of trust, out of surrender. And I have to say that was one of the beautiful works that the Lord did is I specifically remember taking a walk in Pennsylvania. We had been navigating Abby's freshman year of college. I remember all of a sudden it was like a light bulb went off. I mean, I had been wrestling with the Holy Spirit, probably a year and a half. The Lord said, I needed you to get away so I could give her me. And I thought, God has been meeting Abby right where she is. He's providing for her. And it made me mad to not be the one to be able to provide everything for her because I wanted to. And it was such a sweet release, a sweet freedom that I could rest and let her rest in his very capable, loving arms. So now navigating this with Jacob, I asked him the other day, I said, Jacob, we're going to be talking about senior year. Anything you want our listeners to know? He said, stop asking me questions.
Yep. Sounds about right.
Listen, it's so funny. It's a big joke in our house anyway, because Marie, you know, I'm a questioner.
Right.
I love questions so much.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to stop asking me questions, Mom. And I'm like, I know. And even he reacted, do you know, like that's the question every senior is getting. Where are you going to college? Where are you going to college? That is the first response. Every single person in their life is asking them a million times a day. They're sick of it. And it adds pressure every single time. And if they don't have an answer, I can tell you, I can testify that adds a lot of anxiety and fear, and it makes them shut down.
Shutting down.
Yeah.
I've already seen that question and what it does to my kid. And it's only my first kid that I have tried to say to other seniors that her friends that I've seen, I've tried to rephrase that question and say, how are you feeling about life after graduation? Because
that's a great question.
It's not like, or even, what are you thinking for life after graduation? And that might go back to that Bible study, the thoughts, emotions, desire. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you desiring for life after graduation? But, like so many kids, I feel like need to get the message that college doesn't have to be your only option. You can have other choices too. And so that question of where are you going to college, I feel like it just silos them into this one bucket that it has to look like this, and it doesn't.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Well, since we've kind of touched on the topic of college, let's just dive a little bit into college application process, and not like how to apply and how to visit schools. But I was thinking more like, if you are getting this at your house, this is normal. Do you want to go visit this college? No.
I don't know.
What college do you want to visit? None. Stop asking me. I don't know, Mom.
Yes.
Well, what do you think about? I don't know. I can't think about this right now. Stop. I have got all this other stuff to do. I cannot think about. Okay, if this is the response to questions about college, okay, we just said you don't ask a lot of questions, but the mom does have to ask some questions. Some applications, if you're planning on going, do need to go out. So if you're getting these responses, your kid is normal. You are normal. You didn't do anything wrong. Your kid can still go to college. It can still work out. But I remember just thinking, oh my goodness, like, why is she responding that way? So-and-so's kid filled out 30 applications all on their own.
Yeah, without any prompting. You always hear about those kids.
Yeah. Are you guys experiencing any of that? Jennifer, I know you have been.
Oh, my word. I'm like, we went over fall break to a few states in the New England area. And so while we were up there, just for funsies, not because this is what we're pushing, but we walked the campuses, a little bit of Yale, Harvard, and then she had a friend at Brown. We visited, and some friends of ours, their son is at Boston College, and she loved it. Was like, Mom, it's so beautiful up here. I just think the New England area gave Gilmore Girls vibes, and
I was going to say,
feeling like all the feels. And she's like, I just love it. I have never loved any campuses more than these that we have visited here. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that? It is October of your senior year. And I said, okay. And the fact that she even wanted to engage on any level talking about college, I'm like, I have to take this opportunity, because you ask the questions and they just don't want to engage. I'm like, we have to engage. And so I said, well, okay, what do you want to do with that information? Do you want to look into some colleges in the New England area now? And she was like, no, not really. And I'm like, oh, okay. So how does this love of this area inform your decision of where you have applied? And she's like, I don't know. I mean, and then we were done. And I'm like, what is happening? We have to engage. We have to have an engaging conversation. And I started this conversation a year ago because I thought it might be little snippets of conversation that would ultimately get us here. That didn't even help. I'm like, should I have backed it up to sophomore year? I don't know. It's just.
Some kids are like that. I mean, they just are. Yeah.
Just the lack of engaging. Like, it's too overwhelming. And so when she'll say something, I'm like, eager beaver, ready to jump on that question. Let's dialogue about it. And she's like, okay, calm down.
Underreact. You're going to scare her off.
I am. That's what the Holy Spirit told me too, Mindy.
It's so hard, Jennifer.
It is.
Okay, that first child, I'm just going to say it like this. With a sibling group, the first child really sets the tone here. And this is helpful for subsequent children, but the first child has to go. They have to go first, and they have to kind of show the whole what it looks like. Senior year, they have to show the whole family what it looks like navigating colleges. And then first year of college is a really big transition year as well. So I feel like things fall into a normal pace or routine after that. It's very helpful for the younger siblings to have watched what that older kid is going through. And it just stinks for the older kid. I mean, because there's a lot of pressure on them. They got their mom and dad's emotions. They've got their own emotions, and they're leading the way. This is uncharted territory for the family. So Abby was excited, and she had a very adventurous spirit. She would have visited every college just to see what cute boys were on campus and where I could get coffee and where,
That
and
is
so it was
exactly how Kate is. Like, there's more to this decision than the aesthetic.
Oh my gosh, this is a big deal though. Like that's what Abby was looking at. I'm like, okay, this is how we have fun at college campuses. She's not listening to anything anybody's saying. She's looking at the boys. Okay. But with Grant, he didn't want to go anywhere. He just said, I'm going to go wherever they give me a football scholarship. And I'm like, okay, that sounds awesome. So how do we navigate that? And that's a whole nother beast.
That sounds like its own episode.
It is a separate issue to have an athlete. Okay. With my third kid, he is very self-motivated in every possible way. I'm going to call him like the dream kid. He has sat back and he's watched the athlete. He sat back and he watched Abby. He decided early on that he could get more money, more easy money academically. And so he has put all of his efforts into that. He's self-motivated about doing the ACT. He was self-motivated about doing the SAT. He's increased his rigor at school. His senior year is no fluff. We happen to be in a calmer school district, which I'm very thankful for. So there's not the pressure there that would be like at your high school, Jennifer. But Jacob has chosen to push himself. And so he really loves it. And he's done all the work. He's applying for all the honors colleges. And at the same time, like, this is the coolest answer. And again, this is just him. Okay. But people will ask him where he's going to college, and he's so logical and practical about the thing. He was like, well, I know I've moved before. I know I can be happy anywhere. So whoever gives me the most money, that's where I'm going. Yeah. I'm like, okay. He's like, so then stop asking me, because I'm going to go where they give me the most money.
I won't get my letters till the spring, so I'll let you know then.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, bud.
Unless listeners feel like Mindy just doesn't understand, if you go back and listen to when Grant was a senior, I remember her sharing a story of where they paid for ACT tutoring. She thought he was going. She started getting phone calls from the tutor. Grant never even comes. They had to make him pay back the money. Like, her second child was not the dream child in that area. So, like, she does understand. It just so happens that Jacob is making up for the turmoil that she went through with Grant.
That's amazing.
I don't know. I'm very thankful, but I really am not dealing with a lot of the issues that I could have.
Right. All right. Well, let's talk about a little more fun aspect of senior year, senior pictures. I can remember we barely had the school year end as juniors, and our school district sent out, like, get your senior picture appointment over the summer. Like, you've got to make an appointment and go to this company, and they're going to put a little fake cap and gown on them, and you're going to see them get their picture taken. Now, this is not going to be like the senior picture that you might send out with your announcements, but it's going to be the one in the yearbook. This is the only one they allow in the yearbook. So I remember taking them over the summer. They haven't even started senior year yet, but it was like a magic. As soon as you saw them with the fake cap and the fake gown, all of a sudden you were like, oh my goodness, this person is a senior. And it kind of hit me then. And so senior pictures, you get a lot of thoughts on, should you get them taken in the fall of your senior year, the spring of your senior year? The boy doesn't even want to get his picture taken. The girl wants to get theirs done multiple times. Like, tell us some senior picture. What do parents do?
Oh, my word. We are in the throes of this because our photos are tomorrow.
Oh, they are?
Yes, this is literally and where we are at. And so Marie, we did not get the cap and gown photo at the place that did the yearbook pictures. So there has been no cap and gown yet. It was just the drape, with mom's pearls, and we did that, and that was literally 30 seconds, not even a minute to kind of feel sad about that. And so it is the photo shoot where, all of our children are influencers and getting photos taken like they are. Mm-hmm. That is the one that matters. And so, for girls, it's multiple outfits and what looks like multiple locations. It's a full-on modeling photo shoot. Mm-hmm. And Kate wanted like some kind of a casual outfit, and then she wanted maybe a dress. And so we shopped and found the casual, but couldn't find the dress. And so we went to the place in town where you can rent clothes and found the dress, but we got to go today and pick it up. And it's just this whole thing. And so I've been sending her on Instagram, because she isn't a model. And so she doesn't know how to perform as a model in front of these cameras. I've been sending her on Instagram, I know Instagram knows I have a senior because they are sending me all these photographers' reels about how to pose for your senior shoot. And so I've been sending them to Kate, like, watch these and practice these so that we are not wasting our time with this photographer and you can just dive right in and feel comfortable. And then of course I want, because I put too much pressure probably on the whole thing, I want the location to feel meaningful. And there's a trail by our house that last year when I was walking the trail, I happened to go on the day when all the leaves had fallen and it was absolutely looked like Narnia. So I wanted to recreate that for her photos. And so I've been part of my to-do list is walking to the trail to see, is today magic? Is today magic? Is today magic? And then we had a giant rain and all the magic drowned with the rain. And so now we're pivoting and going somewhere completely different. And it's so many things. And it's like, I wanted the nostalgic background that is meaningful. And so I did get her, I said, pick out just an outfit you're loving right now, put some makeup on, some lipstick on, and let's just take a few pictures in the backyard. And with my phone, they ended up coming out great. So I'm like, well, there's your other outfit, so your outfit change, your location change, we'll add those to the stockpile of photos she's going to get. But it's so much. All I remember is being in the studio with my different colors of feathers that they would drape. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And I don't know why they did feathers. It was like a boudoir shoot of some kind, but it's just so much. It's so much. I feel like social media has blown this thing up. You're just graduating. That's all it is. Can we just keep it? Can we basic it down, please?
Right.
Yes. Right. Oh, I'm so glad you described that, Jennifer, because that was very much our experience with Abby Ray.
Yes.
I wouldn't say this is a boy-girl thing necessarily, because some guys, it is very important to them to also have this whole photography session. But now that we did that with Abby, as you know, I have 3 boys after her. We never did anything with those senior pictures that we paid a fortune for, and that she stressed out and we stressed out and had all these locations and, outfit changes. We didn't do anything with those. Nothing.
Yeah.
So then Grant, COVID. And, I couldn't have taken a picture if I tried of him. He wouldn't let me. He's that kid. And then Jacob, literally I'm preparing for the podcast, and I got this question. I said, oh yeah, Jacob, do you want to have senior pictures made? So we did the cap and gown thing over the summer. And I really had anticipated that being an emotional situation. Because Marie, that's like your first foray into senior year. I'm like, it's like you start the timer and time starts ticking down at that point. That's how I felt about that particular session. Thankfully, it went well. There's not time to really be emotional. Thankfully, his turned out great. But I'm telling you, just the other day, I'm just in such a different place with Jacob. And he was like, oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, that might be cool. So I might look into that. But here it is. It's November. And I just asked him about it. It's just a different place to be.
Yeah, I would say from somebody that has done it a few times, one, if you're dealing with girls, and Jennifer, I'm not saying this is going to happen to you, but if you get their pictures taken in September, October of their senior year, they are not going to like those pictures anymore by May of the year they graduate. They'll be removing them from their Instagram feed because they don't quite look like they want the people in college to see them as, because now potential roommates are going to be looking at them. Like, girls change so fast that pictures that you think this was only 6 months ago, they look at it and they're like, oh, I can't believe I've ever even looked like that. Like, they don't even like them anymore. So that won't happen to every girl, but it did happen to some of mine. Luckily, their sister's a photographer. They were asking for their sister to retake their pictures in the spring of their senior year because they didn't like the fall ones.
Oh, Marie.
So I would say if you haven't even thought about senior pictures yet, just think about them in the spring, okay? Because I got mine taken for all the ones that I used for graduation announcements. Every single one of those kids was taken end of April, maybe beginning of April, and they still got them back in time for announcements to go out in early May. If you haven't, don't panic, okay? If you haven't done them. And then for boys, you just don't need so many. Maybe a nice dress shirt, and then maybe if they are an athlete, one in their uniform or a more casual outfit. They don't need 15 poses. They don't even want to look at the proofs with you. They're like, who cares? Not all of them, but I'm just saying in general. So just to let people know that don't panic if you haven't already scheduled them, and maybe don't spend $1 million in the fall, because in the spring, your senior girl may say to you, I don't even like those pictures anymore.
Well, and what's interesting about that, I was talking to my mom the other day and telling her about the pictures, and she said, what are they for? And it made me pause and go, I don't know. It's what we do. I mean, I guess to hang on my wall, and it's, I guess you can send the photo out with the graduation announcement or the invitation, and they post them on their social media like that. That's really all it's for. And so there's kind of a lot of pressure. And what ends up happening is these seniors are getting them taken in the summer before senior year, in the fall, and they're posting them. And then there's this frenzy of energy. All my friends are doing it. I've got to post mine. I've got to do mine. And and you're right, Marie. Like, why don't we wait till spring when the flowers are blooming and it's beautiful? We can do it then too. I mean, I know there's a lot going on during that season, so maybe people are wanting to get them out of the way, but it's just this frenzy. It's a frenzy of senior stuff, and it's all the chatter that is creating a lot of the angst.
Oh yeah. Right. I will say, hey, if you want to spend the money, I know there are photography packages that are for the entire year.
For the entire year? What do you mean?
Yes. You can hire a photographer to do your senior throughout the year.
Oh my goodness.
So like,
it's like Gilmore Girls, a year in the life.
That's what you're doing. You can hire a photographer and you can pay for a package that then they follow you through.
No.
There you go.
Let's move on to senioritis. Are either of you guys experiencing senioritis?
1,000%.
What does it look like for anyone that has not experienced it?
I mean, I think for Kate, her schedule is set up to just naturally create senioritis. She's taking one very easy dual enrollment class. She's taking 2 AP classes that don't assign homework, which has been really, really great. And then 2 choirs, and she leaves early for her job. I mean, it's the schedule is just bringing it itself. And so the busyness of this time and this season really is just, she's working a lot. She's involved at church, and it's all those things. It has nothing to do with a school load or homework load at all.
How about you, Mindy? Well, you might not be doing senioritis because you have a very well-motivated model kid this time around.
So highly motivated that my role in Jacob's life is to help him relax, actually, to help him to be able to find time to have space, because he'll get up early and work on things. He comes home, he's working, he's very intentional. And I don't know whose kid he's definitely takes after Bryce, because this is not me. So I'm like, okay, so my role for you, because you're bent, is to work, is I'm going to bring the fun, and I need to help you relax, and I need to help you take breaks. So I even had to talk him into going on a mission trip over spring break, because he's working so hard because he really wants to see his hard work pay off. Like I said, with getting school paid for. So he is very intentionally working hard for that. But we had an opportunity through our church to take a family mission trip with our youth group over spring break. His first idea was, I actually was looking at that week to be able to rest. It's like, because he's not resting any other time. And I felt like the Lord provided this opportunity for him to get a different view of the world and us to be able to serve together as a family. We haven't been able to do that, certainly not through COVID. This wasn't happening. So I feel like this is a divine appointment for our family that's going to be happening. But we really had to talk him into being willing to go serve for a week, because he was looking at spring break to try to rest. So I don't know, like senioritis with his curriculum, it doesn't lend itself to do that.
I think just senioritis, like the attitude that they just, things don't matter as much anymore. None of this is going to matter because I'm going to college anyways. You know, like they're taking easier courses. It's a real pivot from junior year. So if you are dealing with some of that.
Yeah. And again, let me say what I just said was for my third kid. That was not my first 2.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got a lot more to cover and only about 10 minutes left. So we're not going to do I'm a fan, but we are going to hit on some other topics, listeners. We are going to first talk about the drama. Okay. I know that drama can be girls and boys. In my family, though, it was only the girls, almost exclusively the girls. So I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of how a girl mom might be feeling. With my first one, I seriously thought, oh my goodness, either she goes or I go. Like one of us has to go. We will kill each other if she does not go to college next year. That was one part of me. The other part of me was like, oh my goodness, what did I do wrong? My daughter hates me. As soon as she leaves the house, she's never going to call. She's never going to text. I'll lose her forever. I can't believe this is happening. Okay, so there's two different me's the whole senior year because, and that I just feel like that happened too with my twins, not to the degree that it happened with my oldest. I think because of what you said, Mindy, the younger ones see the older ones, and then maybe it just doesn't happen as much for them, but they will come back in general. They will come back. They will come back happier with you. It only took till fall break for my daughter to come home from college and listen to her siblings whining and complaining about dinner to say, you guys don't know how good you have it. So
Nice.
you can just take a little bit of comfort from us today, or at least from me. Will we ever have a relationship? Will I ever survive this year? Yes. The answer is yes.
A new friend of mine in just the last year or two. So I don't know her that very well, but she's very calm every time I see her. She homeschools her children. She's just very calm. She's one of those. And we were talking about some college stuff, and she said, this whole thing has felt like a roller coaster. I vacillate between being over-involved and then throwing my hands up in the air. I keep thinking to myself, take a step back, let her figure this out. She can do it. And then the opposite, I don't think she's going to do what she needs to get done to do what she wants. It is truly maddening. And I just was like, oh, my word, if she's feeling that, this calm, Zen friend of mine, then, yeah, I think we all are. And that's what I've heard. I mean, that's what I feel like I just keep hearing from everybody is just this, especially with the girls, that it is, like you said, like one of us has got to go. One of us has got to go. And one of my friends that has 4 daughters, and they were all a year apart. I remember she said, like, God does this very unique thing in senior year where it's like, okay, there are too many, alpha women in this house. And so he's preparing your heart for that, where it's like, okay, I'm ready. I see this needing to happen and I'm ready to watch this go. And I've definitely seen it with you, Marie, because even all the times we have coffee and your girls are calling, like they do call, and it's good for them to go so they come back and they want to return and be a part of, what the new relationship looks like.
Right. Man. Okay. So every kid is so different. Every family is so different. So I'll tell kind of our snippet here. With Abby, there was a lot of drama, a lot of tears, especially with, our family navigating, moving, her going, us going, the whole bit. So that was a very unique situation. But I'll say with boys, I have noticed, especially with my oldest son, that the fear, the anxiety, like boys sometimes will lean into anger and hot temper, whereas girls might lean into crying and drama. So we experienced the temper, the butting of heads, and I would even say the soiling of the nest. And it very much, I remember it being November of my oldest senior year, thinking we're not going to make it. I mean, just really feeling like we are not going to make it.
This was with your son.
Yeah, my oldest son. And also having conversations of, don't ever put my information down. If you decide to go to college, I never want to hear from one of your teachers ever again. Do not go to college unless you want to. And don't tell them my email address, because I'm sick of it. I cannot deal with what you're not turning in because you're done. And so there was a lot of soiling of the nest, a lot of tempers flaring in my home. There's a lot of testosterone anyway. And so because of that experience, now you've heard us recover and restore with that child. And so anticipating another boy going into senior year, I was worried. I remember praying like, Lord, help me not project feelings from my oldest into Jacob's senior year, because they're totally different kids. You can hear me saying that. At the same time, the same feelings are there, and boys to become men is not a gentle into the night process. They will fight their father and they will fight their mother because they're trying to become a man. Now this is biblical, and it's also hard. So underreacting with Jacob is a very self-motivated child. At the same time, he does not like to answer questions, and he feels like he knows what he's going to do. So he doesn't necessarily need to include anyone in that decision. And so
it's got a little bit of senioritis in that aspect.
There's still conversations, and we're like, we are involved. Like, you're going to have to include us. You are going to need to talk to us, whether you feel like you know what you're doing or not, because Jacob will pull in and be quiet if he doesn't know what to do. He won't let you know he's uncertain, because he likes to be certain. He likes to have all the answers. So navigating that. But I will say, Bryce and I have learned a couple of things. We will drip information, step back, let Jacob process for several days, carefully approach it again. So things don't have to be decided right then. It's going to be like, breathe. He needs time to process. So his fear and anxiety come out differently than my other kids. But Bryce and I are not so worked up about having answers or direction right then.
It's so good to hear you say all that. I wish this was kind of talked about more. And I guess maybe it is being talked about once you step into senior season with just even your first kid, but it's just so interesting to me how, like, with parenting, when you have a toddler and they're laying on the floor in public throwing a fit, like, there's literally nothing you can do about it. Like, your ugly is just laying there on the floor throwing a fit. And so is everybody else's. Everyone's toddlers are essentially doing that for the most part. But when you get with older kids, like, you can conceal so much of that, and you can keep that behind your closed doors, and it's easier to get away with not talking about it. But then it just feels kind of isolating. Like, am I the only one whose daughter can really lash out and say some hurtful things, and where I feel like I've got a bully in my own home, and then to hear other moms say, yes, you are not the only one. Like, my daughter can bully me too. And, I don't know. It's just so good to hear that. And, like, I've heard that about boys, that it comes out more in rage and anger. And I don't know how, like, I don't know if there's a fix, or if it just, we keep having this conversation. If you've, and it's like you said at the beginning, Marie, like, when you look at someone and say, I have a senior, and you go, enough said. I know. To just keep saying those things, like, I know, I've been there. Mine was this, mine was that. And tell the stories of where it was really hard and really ugly. And just so that you don't feel alone. Because I look around and I'm like, all these kids are so successful. They're going to go to these great colleges. They're going to do these great things. And mine can't even finish the 150-word essay to this particular college that isn't on the Common App, that she couldn't just point and click, and she finally turned it in last night. Praise the Lord. But 150 words. I'm like, that's 3 sentences. Write the essay. It's just like maddening. But to hear other parents say, oh, my word, mine too, mine too, mine too. It's reassuring. And then to see, and they're calling you when they're gone. Yay. So it does circle back and it does resolve, and they do need you. And, they do want to be around you, and they do, all those things. It's so nice. And that's why I'm so thankful, Marie, that we've stayed such good friends, because you are modeling this next season for me so much, and I'm so encouraged by what I see, and especially after having heard the stories of what it was like to have your high schoolers and your seniors, and knowing what that looks like now on the other side.
Yeah. The process of letting go. What do you start letting up on senior year? Because you need to start the process now. So what are you doing to start stepping back?
I mean, again, we're learning as we go, especially since this is our first time. But I really had that thought, last year of, like, I want senior year to be the year where she is completely running her life. And so that there are failures that happen, and they're happening while we're here to kind of help clean up the messes. And there's been failures. There's been missed things. She decided to do dual enrollment English instead of AP English and got her application all wrong. I did not do a thing with that. And so she showed up for her first class and they didn't have her in the system. And then she's like, what do I do? What do I do? And I'm like, I don't know. I guess you call the community college. I don't know. And just the more that I have backed off, the more I see her stepping up, because she's like, crap, mom's not going to help me in this area. And so I want more of, I want more of those situations, but they're maddening to watch unfold. And then as far as college, that's really tricky, because dropping the ball in the college process means missing out on scholarships and deadlines. And so that's where I think by me kind of dropping out on all these other things, it's like I need something to do. So I'm really leaning in on the college part, and that's become a little too much. But, sometimes dropping the ball and failing in the college process looks like missing out on $20,000 of scholarship, Yeah. Like she, at one of the schools she's gotten $18,000 a year, which is awesome. Well, if she could raise her ACT super score by 1 point, it would be an additional $5,000 a year. That's $20,000. And I'm like, why would you not do that? Just put in some extra work and just to see if you can eke out that other $20,000. And nope, she don't want to do it. And I'm like, but then, it's just, those are the things that are, I don't know how to step away from, but the other stuff I do want to step away from. But then if she drops the ball in school things, well, that maybe those teachers are the ones writing the recommendation letters. So you don't really want to let them fail too much there and disappoint. And that it's just such a bizarre juggle that you see these things that affect their future. And so you want them to fail and practice that and learn how to fix their problems and pull through. But then sometimes there's dire consequences with the failures at the same time. So I don't know if you have any tips.
Yeah. There's no one right answer.
No,
it's a struggle for everybody. Yeah.
It is. Letting your kids fail is a whole nother topic that's very difficult. We've stepped back with each kid because we had to. I was holding on so tight that it was suffocating. For my kid, it was suffocating for us. And then when a kid chooses to fail and you can't do anything about it, and then you realize that they failed, but that it was okay. Like they fell into the place they needed to be. Or maybe it took a couple of years for their direction to really align. I've seen God work in the failures. I've seen him work in us stepping back. Again, every kid is different, but in my particular situation now, us trying to have conversations where there is mutual respect. I kind of check in with Jacob, but I know that he's doing it. Also, we have conversations that kind of sound like, we trust that you're going to do this, but you need to include us in this conversation. Keep us, let us help you. Let us step in. Yes, we know that next year you're not going to have a curfew, but you do now because you still live in our home. You're not 18 yet, So he very much has watched Abby and Grant, be able to go from curfew to none. And, also just being able to have more adult decisions. And I have to say, we started stepping back earlier with him and also with Nathan. We ended up coming up with, I'll call it our parenting policy, but we made expectations known a lot earlier with our younger two. Who's going to pay for what? This is what we expect of you. This is what Dad and I will be doing. And this is what you're going to be doing. So if you want to go to college, these are the things you have to do. We're here to help you, but you have to ask because we're not going to micromanage you. We've done that. We're tired. And plus, I just want to have a good relationship with you. I'm managing your emotions these last 2 years in our home, and I need us to survive as a family. And there's still a lot of other people involved. So helping them know what to expect at a younger age has been extremely helpful. So now even with my youngest that's a sophomore, he knows what's coming. Right. And he knows that it's up to him. College or not, it's up to you, bud.
Those firstborns are going to need the most counseling at the end of the day.
Yeah, because I think that comes with experience, Jennifer. Like you're with your first one, you'll know how to have that conversation with your other two. Right now, with your first one, you don't even know what to expect. How can you tell them what to expect?
No.
Totally.
So it's a totally different beast. And that's why I hope this conversation has been encouraging to listeners, because you're hearing from all different levels of experience with seniors, and every kid is so different. What you could do with one kid doesn't even work with the other ones.
Yeah, I'm really excited to kind of see where I'm at. I'm not excited, but looking forward to see where I'm at in the spring to see now what would I have done differently. And I'm sure it will be a whole host of things. But it's like it's the first kid, like with every single stage. This is the first time I'm doing this. And I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm surviving. And it's what I told Kate so many times, like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm figuring this out. Like, forgive me along the way and be gracious to me and stop bullying me, because I'm trying really hard. I mean, she's not a bully. She's a lovely child.
Yes.
But it's just the ugly emotions coming out. We get that side because we're the safe space. But I don't know what I'm doing, and dummying through and like trying to take good notes for the second time around and hope I get it better then.
That would be a good episode to do next year. Like, what would I do differently? Because I love to read or hear from people, because then you can learn from maybe what they would do differently, So, yeah. Well, I just want to wrap this up. I want to tell you guys I appreciate your vulnerability, sharing these hard stories. It's not easy to get on and share the hard parts. But what kind of podcast episode would it be if we came on and sang like about how wonderful every aspect of senior year is, and just leave people demoralized that their home is not looking like that? Like, we want listeners to know that everybody is experiencing heightened emotions and things that they did not expect. So for sure. Jennifer, thank you for joining us again. Mindy, thank you for being here every week. Listeners, if you want to come and find us, you can find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast, or you can email us your thoughts or questions at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. But Jennifer and Mindy, we'll talk to you again very soon.
Sounds great. Bye.
We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.